Oh, we wait for it to go later. Okay.
Are we on?
Yep.
Hello, this is George.
And Bonnie.
And this is Adonai's Sanctuary Truth Classroom. We're going to go over Leviticus 16 and 17 tonight. But today I was wondering, why is Adonai wanting us to go over Leviticus, or the Old Testament, or the Old Covenant? I mean, we're going over things that most preachers don't even hit 90% of the time. And as I was sitting there thinking, I thought, because it's the truth, and what Adonai wants us to go over. One chapter, one verse, one part of the scripture at a time to bring out the truth, whether we like it or not, whether it's boring or not, or whether we had a preconceived idea of what it meant or not. So, because of that brilliant idea or thinking that I did today, we're going to keep going. Right, with Leviticus 16 and 17. And next week we're going to hit 18. Hope you have your eyes open for that one. That's a good one. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Mwah.
Hey, Ann.
I got to put my
Said
glasses
hi
on.
from Kentucky.
Hi from Kentucky. Hello, Ann. And anybody else? Okay. Section or chapter 16 talks about the Kohen HaGadol. And that's actually the high priest. And the Kohenim. And that is plural for priest. In other words, many priests. The laws they must keep. That's kind of interesting. Priests that keep the laws. By the first two verses of 16, we see how important it is to Adonai when you do what and how Adonai wants it done. Read Leviticus 16, 1 and 2, please.
Adonai spoke with Moses after the death of Aaron's two sons, when they tried to sacrifice before Adonai and died. Adonai said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron not to come at just any time into the holy place beyond the curtain, in front of the ark cover which is on the ark, so that he will not die, because I appear in the cloud over the ark cover."
In other words, what did that reading really say to you? Pay attention to what Adonai says. It's kind of important. Read 10, verse 1, please.
But Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and offered unauthorized fire before Adonai, something that he had not ordered them to do.
In other words, pay attention to what Adonai tells you. Now we're going to go over 16:3.
Here is how Aaron is to enter the holy place, with a young bull as a sin offering and a ram as a burnt offering.
Here is how Aaron, the high priest, is to enter the holy place. Actually, keep my rules. Do it my way. All the way down to the shorts you wear. Now, wait a minute. Can that really be true? Read 16:4, please.
He is to put on the holy linen tunic, have linen shorts next to his bare flesh, have the linen sash wrapped around him, and be wearing his linen turban. They are the holy garments. He is to bathe his body in water and put them on.
Aaron, or the high priest, after him, it even says to bathe his body before putting on the holy garments. One of the interesting duties that the high priest was to do was in 16:8. Read 16:8, please.
Then Aaron is to cast lots for the 2 goats, one lot for Adonai and the other for Azel.
What? Aaron, or you might say any high priest, were to cast lots. Why, in this day and age, that's looked on as a satanic ritual. Or that command by Adonai now used to substitute or to change the activity so they copy or alter the original or made up original ritual of itself. They copy just enough to make it a ritual so people follow it. 16:9, please.
Aaron is to present the goat whose lot fell to Adonai and offer it as a sin offering.
It says the lot that fell to Adonai. Is that what he said?
Mm-hmm.
Used as a sin offering. What about the other lot? It fell on Azel. Now I looked up Azel, and that goat that is deemed a demon goat. Most translations say it was a scapegoat for the Hebrews. Well, then what would or should you do with that demon goat? Read 10, please.
But the goat whose lot fell to Azel is to be presented alive to Adonai to be used for making atonement over it by sending it away into the desert for Azel.
Send it away from the camp to take all the demon desires, traditions, and their demonic mindset out of the camp from Adonai's people. Now Aaron is to go where and do with what? What is Aaron supposed to do? Read 12.
He is to take a censer full of burning coals from the altar before Adonai, and with his hands full of ground fragrant incense, bring it inside the curtain.
Go behind the curtain with ground incense, fragrant incense. Put the incense on the fire. Why? Read 13 and 14. It even tells you why he's supposed to do that.
He is to put the incense on the fire before Adonai, so that the cloud from the incense will cover the ark cover, which is over the testimony, in order that he not die. He used to take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his finger on the ark cover toward the east, and in front of the ark cover he is to sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times.
Now, how important is this? It said the cloud will cover the ark. It will go over the testimony so he won't die. I guess you might put a little parentheses there to all those high priests. Now, don't forget to do that.
Very important.
So you won't die. A very important instruction from Adonai. Take the goat and the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his finger on the altar ark cover. On the ark cover. This is interesting. Towards the east, or on the east side of the ark cover, 7 times he is to sprinkle the blood. I know there's a lot of people that have said the number 7 is what's sacred, makes it holy, makes it something from Adonai. I haven't really got that part in there yet. It says do it 7 times, but I don't see where the number 7 does that. But it might later on. Now my sweetie's going to go to Leviticus 4, read 5 and 6.
The anointed Kohen is to take some of the bull's blood and bring it to the tent of meeting. The Kohen is to dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle some of the blood 7 times in the presence of Adonai in front of the curtain of the sanctuary.
So it wasn't something new, but he's reminding them what they have to do. And you'll find out why he reminds them and how important it was later on. Now my sweetie's going to go to Hebrews 9:7.
But only the Kohen Haggadol enters the inner one, and he goes in only once a year, and he must always bring blood, which he offers both for himself and for the sins committed in ignorance by the people.
Now that's kind of interesting. Here we have the same thing stated in what some people want to call the New Testament, or the New Covenant. He's reiterating what he's talking about in Leviticus. So it can't be, well, that's in the Old Testament, so we don't really have to pay attention to that anymore, because it's in the New also. For all you people who believe that, or think that, or want to believe that. My sweetie's going to go back to 16, verse 15.
Next he is to slaughter the goat for the sin offering, which is for the people. Bring its blood inside the curtain and do with its blood as he did with the bull's blood, sprinkling it on the ark cover and in front of the ark cover.
What she just read, 16:15, talks about the sin offering. Yet 16:16 gets down to why it stated that. Read 16:16, please.
He will make atonement for the holy place because of the uncleanness of the people of Israel and because of their transgressions, all their sins, and he is to do the same for the tent of meeting, which is there with them right in the middle of their uncleanness.
He makes atonement for the holy place, not for himself, but because of the uncleanliness of the people of Israel, because of their transgression, all their sin, and do the same thing for the tent of meeting, which is in the middle of that, of all their uncleanliness. See, they weren't really good people either. They did things wrong. And Adonai knew that. And he makes atonement for it. The blood makes amends for the people of Israel, for the holy place, their sins, and the tent of meetings, and all that is right in the middle of their people and all their uncleanliness. Think about that. That's powerful for the children of Israel to accept. Let it be done, and do it for them and for Adonai. My sweetie's going to read 16:17.
No one is to be present in the tent of meeting from the time he enters the holy place to make atonement until the time he comes out, having made atonement for himself, for his household, and for the entire community of Israel.
No one, it states no one can enter the tent because the high priest is making atonement for them all. Read 18 and 19, please.
Then he is to go out to the altar that is before Adonai and make atonement for it. He is to take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and put it on all the horns of the altar. He is to sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times. thus purifying it and setting it apart from the uncleanness of the people of Israel.
Now, we're not saying the number 7 isn't something special, but we just haven't run across where Adonai says that yet. He has them do it that many times, but I've never read yet in Bereshit or Exodus or Leviticus where 7 is a special number. It may be, but we haven't got to that part yet, and we don't jump ahead. Well, not too much. Sprinkle the blood with his finger on the horns, on every horn, I think you read, right?
Mm-hmm.
7 times. Read 20 through 22, please.
When he has finished anointing the holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he is to present the live goat. Aaron is to lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the transgression, crimes, and sins of the people of Israel. He is to put them on the head of the goat and then send it away into the desert with a man appointed for this purpose. The goat will bear all the transgressions away to some isolated place, and he is to let the goat go in the desert.
She's talking about the Azazel, that escape goat again. That goat carries away the sins, transgressions, even the crimes that the people of Israel had committed into the desert. It says, led by an appointed individual, and it is to wander in the desert. Not killed by somebody, because it's an evil carrying goat. Did you notice the high priest would lay both hands on that goat's head?
That's what it says.
Interesting.
What it says.
Extra kick. Now my sweetie's going to read 23 through 25.
Aaron is to go back into the tent of meeting, where he is to remove the linen garments he put on when he entered the holy place. He is to leave them there. Then he is to bathe his body in water in the holy place, put on his other clothes, come out and offer his burnt offering, the burnt offering of the people, thus making atonement for himself and for the people. He is to make the fat of the sin offering go up in smoke on the altar.
Aaron, or the high priest, whoever he is, Aaron is then to change his clothes, leaving the linen garments in the tent of meeting. After bathing in a holy place, give a burnt offering for himself and the people, then he is to put on the altar the fat of the sin offering, so it goes up in smoke, a fragrant aroma to Adonai. It doesn't say that right there, but if you remember in Genesis and Exodus, whenever they burnt the fat offering on the altar, it was a fragrant aroma to Adonai. Now, how about the man or the person who led the goat out into the desert? My sweetie's going to read 16:26.
The man who let go the goat for Azazel is to wash his clothes and bathe his body in water. Afterwards, he may return to the camp.
Bathe first. Then he is allowed back into the camp. The instructions for the bull and the goats, well, read 27 and 28, please.
The bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, is to be carried outside the camp. There they are to burn up completely their hides, meat, and dung. 26, 27, right? 28. The
27.
person burning them is to wash his clothes and bathe his body in water. Afterwards, he may return to the camp.
The person, the ones who do their job or that job, must also bathe before he can enter the camp. Now, why go through all that stuff? Well, I guess because somebody told you to. Read 29, please.
It is to be a permanent regulation for you on that on the 10th day of the 7th month you are to deny yourselves and not do any kind of work, both the citizens and the foreigners living with you.
Why? Because it's a permanent regulation. It doesn't stop. You can't change it when you go to some different church or synagogue. You do what Adonai says. It says it's a that's the first part you read, wasn't it? It's a permanent regulation.
Yep.
The 10th day of the 7th month. In the Hebrew calendar, it's called Ethanim, Ethanim, which is actually the month of Yom Kippur. And that is the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement.
Not ironic.
Read 16:30, please.
For on this day atonement will be made for you to purify you. You will be clean before Adonai from all your sins.
For on the 10th day of the 7th month, if you keep that permanent regulation, you will be clean before Adonai from all your sins. I guess that'd be a kind of important thing.
I would think it'd be very vitally important.
And, well, my next three words are, that's a powerful statement. In just one verse. On that day, you will be purified and clean before Adonai. Is that what you read?
Yep.
Before Adonai. So on that day, when all that gets done, you stand before Adonai sin-free. Until the next day when you do something bad. Read 31, please.
It is a Shabbat of complete rest for you, and you are to deny yourselves. This is a permanent regulation.
This is to be a Shabbat. In other words, a Sabbath. A Shabbat which is set aside to honor Adonai. 1631, the last 5 words shows how strong of a law it is for the Hebrews. Read those last 5 words.
This is a permanent regulation.
There we go again.
Doesn't sound like a suggestion.
1629 says permanent regulation. Deny yourself. Moses did what Adonai had ordered him to do. Read 32 through 34, please.
The Kohen anointed and consecrated to be Kohen in his father's place will make the atonement. He will put on the linen garments, the holy garments. He will make an atonement for the especially holy place. He will make an atonement for the tent of meeting and the altar, and he will make atonement for the Kohen and for all the people of the community. 34, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a permanent regulation for you to make atonement for the people of Israel because of all their sins once a year. Moses did as Adonai had ordered him.
Think about that. I like how that stated it. My sweetie just stated it a couple seconds ago. It wasn't a suggestion to Moses. It was an order from Adonai. That's how important it was to do once a year during the month of Yom Kippur. And I even got that part underlined. So it must be important. And that's the end of 16, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now my sweetie's going to start reading 17. I got wrote before she does that. Chapter 17 of Adonai's letter is very stern. Before we go over that part, it would seem that certain individuals were getting the idea of having their own ceremony out in their fields, placing their hands on their goat and sending it away from them, thinking that was good enough. Those are just, and you'll find out later that that was actually for the ones who were close enough to go to the synagogue. There is a stipulation later on of the ones who live a long, far ways away that didn't make it back, how they could do it. But the ones who could make it to the synagogue, to the high priest, were to do that. Thinking what they were honored to do was just good enough. They must not, and I got not underlined, have had enough time to do the right thing, so they substituted it. They substituted it. How? Their own way. It seems Adonai wasn't pleased. I don't know why. But my sweetie's going to read 17, 1 through 6.
Adonai said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the people of Israel. Tell them that this is what Adonai has ordered. When someone from the community of Israel slaughters an ox, lamb, or goat inside or outside the camp, without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to Adonai before the tabernacle of Adonai, he is to be charged with blood. He has shed blood, and that person is to be cut off from his people. The reason for this is so that the people of Israel will bring their sacrifices that they sacrifice out in the field, so that they will bring them to Adonai, to the entrance to the tent of meeting, to the Kohen, and sacrifice them as a peace offering to Adonai. The Kohen will splash the blood against the altar of Adonai at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and will make the fat go up in smoke as a pleasing aroma for Adonai."
Now, before somebody gets the idea, well, that means they can't kill their own animals out there and eat. Yes, they could. But if they're doing it for the sacrifice to Adonai, they're doing it the wrong way. We had 3. We lost somebody.
They'll see it later.
In other words, cut off the people who follow society and what other people are saying and not following what Adonai says. In all reality, those are powerful words. Then and now, how many people do that? Huge number.
Mm-hmm.
My sweetie's going to read 17:7.
No longer will they offer sacrifices to the goat demons, before whom they prostitute themselves. This is a permanent regulation for them through all their generations.
Now wait a minute. Read 16, 8 through 10.
Also tell them...
16, 8 through 10.
Sorry. 8 through 10. Then Aaron is to cast lots for the 2 goats. One lot for Adonai and the other for Azel. Aaron is to present the goat whose lot fell to Adonai and offered as a sin offering. But the goat whose lot fell to Azar is to be presented alive to Adonai to be used for making atonement over it by sending it away into the desert for Azel.
Think about those 2 readings. We have no idea the exact amount of time Moses and the Israelites were at Mount Horeb, or Horeb, however you want to pronounce it. People have said 2, maybe 3 or more years there. In that amount of time, it seems by that writing, if they were not only having substitute sacrifices, they also made a sacrifice to the goat demon. Read 7 again, please. 17:7.
No longer will they offer the sacrifices to the goat demon, before whom they prostitute themselves. This is a permanent regulation for them through all their generations.
Sacrifice to the goat demon instead of sacrificing to Adonai. Did you catch that the first time? Whom they prostrate themselves with. In other words, they were acting like the Egyptians did. The goat was for atonement from their sins. Yet when they were doing what the Egyptians did, they were honoring by sacrificing to the sin of the goat demon. And that's not what Adonai said to do. No longer were they to act like them. Those Israelites weren't to act like the Egyptians. The last part of 7 states, again, read that last part of 7.
This is a permanent regulation for them
Here we go
through
again.
all their generations.
A permanent, it states it's a permanent regulation through all their generations. I wonder how many do that now. That's interesting when we stop and think about it.
You think they would have learned by now?
You thought so?
You'd have thought so, Tom.
But you got to remember, most of the people that came out of Egypt, well, everybody that came out of Egypt, were brainwashed for hundreds of years. And this was something totally new. And they knew by their ancestors they were supposed to pray to Adonai, but they grew up worshiping and believing and seeing the Egyptians worship all their little gods. And if you have a conversation with somebody and they're trying to get you to understand that, I'll put it this way, the J word is how you get saved, and we know it isn't. It wasn't even around when he was born, when he died, or when he rose. You have to remember, those people have been told by you, but they don't listen either. We're just trying to get people to understand truth. I don't care if you follow us or not. You know, I wish you would. I wish you'd understand. Stop following denominational philosophy or church doctrine. Stop following a preacher who preaches any name is good enough. But we're getting off track though. It's a permanent regulation through all their generations. And I don't know, like I said, I've never really understood if they do it now or not. They don't. They're breaking the rule from Adonai. Okay. Not only the sin goat, it seems like people just didn't have time for Adonai. Think about it. What's really changed? So they substituted again, like society is doing now. Read 8 and 9, please.
Also tell them, when someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you offers a burnt offering or sacrifice, without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to Adonai, that person is to be cut off from his people.
Remember when I said the people were out in the fields and they didn't want to take the time to come into the temple, holy place, to do the sacrifice the right way? 8, I told you it would be coming up later. 8 and 9 says, without bringing the offering or sacrifice to the tent of meetings, so it would be a true sacrifice to Adonai. What are you supposed to do with them? Cut those people off. Just like if you get in a situation, you state the truth, and if they don't want to listen to the truth, you walk away. You do the best you can. You try to tell them. Then they're on the large road to that wide gate. Anyway, when you hunt or kill an animal, don't. What's the best example? Don't take a cup and fill it with the animal's blood and drink it. I know there's people going, yeah. That is one of the satanic rituals. But that's not what Adonai says to do. He said that's where the life is. Don't eat or drink the blood. Read 10, please. 17:10.
When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you eats any kind of blood, I will set myself against that person who eats blood and cut him off from the people.
Cut them. I use the term them. Cut them off from the people. Stop that ritual from getting stronger. That satanic ritual. Because the fire of that, because of the life of that animal is in the blood makes atonement because the life is in the blood. Even when hunting. Read 13 and 14, please.
When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you hunts and catches game, whether animal or bird that can be eaten, he is to pour out its blood and cover it with earth. For the life of every creature, its blood is its life. Therefore I said to the people of Israel, you are not to eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is its blood. Whoever eats it will be cut off.
I know we've already covered that, but it stated it over and over, so it must be kind of important. Adonai makes the law. If you find an animal killed by another, or dies naturally, I guess, or you're hunting it, and you eat it, here is what you are to do. Read 15 and 16.
Anyone eating an animal that dies naturally, or it's torn to death by a wild animal, whether he is a citizen or a foreigner, is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Then he will be clean. But if he doesn't wash them or bathe his body, he will bear the consequences of his wrongdoing.
Yet, if he doesn't bathe, now the one thing that jumped out at us when we were studying this is if he doesn't bathe, that reading of 15 and 16 even covers that. Covers what? The responsibility is on the individual. Not on some priest, not on another person, not on Adonai or Yeshua. The responsibility is your own. It's his wrongdoing, nobody else's. If he doesn't bathe his body, in other words, he doesn't obey Adonai. Here's an interesting statement that we made. Don't blame Adonai, your family, your neighbor, or your friend, like so many do today. Stop trying to pass the buck. Adonai knows, and so do you, whose responsibility it will be when you're on that huge road going to that large door. It's your responsibility. Only you. Won't be able to blame anybody else. You can't blame Adonai. You can't blame the heavenly angels, or you can't blame us old people who are on this little thing here. You can't blame somebody else. That one little part right there in the end says, it's your responsibility. Now, Tom did make a comment that you would think they would have learned by now.
The Israelites.
Think about today's society, everybody who's watching. Have you learned by now? You would think we would have learned a long time ago. But most people have never heard the truth. That's why we got to go from Genesis all the way through. Most people have never heard this last little bit that we went through. If they have, they've skimmed over it so fast that nobody really pays any attention. That's when you have the people in the church going. I mean, to some people it's not interesting. But when you study, you find out that's what Adonai wanted you to hear. That's how interesting, that's how important it is. Yes, he's mainly talking to the Israelites that came out of Egypt. But he's giving us a message also. And sooner or later we're going to get smart enough to figure out what it is. Well, we know what it is. The answer is Yeshua, but hope you had a good week, and hope you have the rest of the week is good for you. May Adonai help you. We pray every night that Adonai opens up our eyes and the only thing we bring out is truth. Now, if you don't want truth, that's your business. It's your, what we ended it with, it's your responsibility, nobody else's. What we do, what I do, and what she does isn't any of your responsibility. We can't be responsible for you, and you can't be responsible for us. Take your own responsibility. Step up to the plate. Hope Adonai gives you truth and your understanding for the rest of the days.